As you can tell, we still have our Christmas tree up here. Yes, I have been procrastinating in putting up our Christmas tree, but I'm gonna tell you why. In today's video, we will be talking about why we procrastinate and how to stop procrastinating. Are you ready? Let's get into today's video. Welcome back to my channel. This is Miss May. On my channel, I do a variety of lifestyle videos and productivity videos. If this is the first time you're on my channel, make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell. And before we start, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm. I really appreciate your support. Before we start to talk about the reasons why we procrastinate, let's talk about what is procrastination. Procrastination refers to the act of unnecessarily postponing certain actions or certain plans or certain decisions. And why do we really worry about procrastinate? Why do we want to stop procrastination? It's because usually procrastination has a detrimental effect on our productivity, and it's basically withholding ourselves in achieving our goals. So if we want to be productive, if we want to be go-getter, go-achiever, we gotta sometimes try to not procrastinate. So in today's video, we're going to talk about reasons why we procrastinate and how do we stop procrastination. The first reason why we procrastinate is we tend to procrastinate from things that are challenging and difficult. Well, honestly, who loves to face challenge? Okay, so sometimes I love to do things that are challenging, especially in the morning, but as the day progressed, I started to get tired. I started to feel like overwhelmed, and I love to procrastinate the things that are difficult or challenging to do in the next day. But sometimes in the next day there are competing needs, and then I procrastinate those difficult things, challenging things. So when we procrastinate things that are challenging or difficult to do, a lot of times I felt like, yes, it is better to do those difficult things, challenging things in the morning when I am more motivated, when I felt like so inspired to do something that's difficult or challenging. So maybe schedule more difficult things or challenging things to do in the morning when you have a fresh mind, when you don't feel as tired. Maybe it's easier. Another way is to give yourself a reward. Like if you could tackle this challenging or difficult things, you can get an instant reward of like giving yourself a break, buying yourself a little present, maybe ice cream. Those little rewards in the future is going to motivate you. The second reason why we procrastinate is that it is simply not our priority. Like in our daily lives, especially as an adult, there's so many competing needs. You have work, family, responsibilities. You want to take care of yourself and want to take care of others, at the same time making money, trying to get your career and trying to take care of your health. There's so many competing needs in our lives, and sometimes doing this one particular thing is just simply not our priority. For example, this Christmas tree, like what harm does it do by being here? It's really, really pretty. It's my eye candy. It brings warmth and lights at night. I just really love this Christmas tree. And honestly, I feel like my videos look better with this Christmas tree in the back. I know like other people may judge you like, oh my gosh, the January is almost over. You still have your Christmas tree. Boo. But again, if you make you happy, why not? But eventually we will have to take it down just because when you invite other people, you'll be like, But again, it's just simply not my priority. So when you have competing needs or competing priorities, it's very important to take a step back to think about how taking this action may or may not influence you or influence others. For example, with this Christmas tree, by putting down the Christmas tree, it's gonna take several effect on my life. For example, to have something green in the background, I will have to go buy a plant or an artificial plant because I'm a little bit worried about like my cat eating the plant. So I'm just trying to think of if there are any like safe artificial plant that it wouldn't bother my cat. Or maybe buy a safe plant. I haven't really made my decision, but by taking down this Christmas tree, I have to immediately take an action of thinking about a replacement for my video background. So taking this Christmas tree down is actually gonna bring me more work, and that directly caused my procrastination of taking this Christmas tree down. But at the same time, if I don't take this Christmas tree down, if I invite other people to the house, they may be like, Why do you still have your Christmas tree down? So again, it may make my husband look bad. I don't care. Honestly, I don't care what other people think of me. I don't care if other people judge me, but my husband really cares. Like, he doesn't want to look bad in front of his family and friends. So me taking down this Christmas tree is going to make him happy. So after I balance the pros and cons, I'll probably eventually take it down, maybe within the next 2 weeks. So I will be on the market looking for a replacement. Something green, like an artificial plant that's like safe plastic, or maybe a real plant that's like really safe for my pet, so to replace this Christmas tree. Again, if there is something on your to-do list that is not your absolute priority, like you should prioritize, for example, I should prioritize my work, my YouTube channel, and everything. And to me, taking down this Christmas tree is not my absolute priority. I think it's okay to procrastinate here and there, but eventually it's important to think about how taking this action may or may not influence your life, or may not influence the life of others, such as my husband. So eventually I just need to take that action. The third reason why we sometimes procrastinate is that we don't have a very specific, concrete, short-term goals. When the goals are very vague, abstract, long-term, it's very easy to procrastinate. Actually, I've done it, I've seen my friends do it, like a lot of people that are very successful have done it, because sometimes there are goals in our lives that are really long-term, and because it seems to be so beyond reach, it's very hard to use that goal to motivate our immediate actions. Sometimes we have delayed gratification. For example, my channel may or may not grow eventually, and if it grows, it will be great, but it will be in the long term. When the gratification is delayed, for example, learning a new language, you may or may not use it in the immediate future, but you know that it's something that you want to do because it's beneficial for your life, it's beneficial for your brain. Adult learning is really beneficial for our cognition and anti-aging. So again, it's a very vague goal, and when the goal is very long-term and very vague, and when you don't see the immediate benefits, when there's a delayed gratification, it's always easy to procrastinate. I'll give you an example. I wanted to learn Spanish for the longest time, and I have been procrastinating it because first, it's difficult. There's certain Spanish sounds that I just personally cannot pronounce, so I still don't know if I can actually concur because the double R sound is so difficult. And second, I know there's absolute benefits of learning Spanish because I live in Texas, but the benefits could be very long-term. In the future, maybe I can land a job where Spanish is required, but it takes a long time to learn a language and you don't know where the outcome lays. The solution to that is to first make a plan and a system to establish some short-term goals. Instead of setting a goal of learning a language in the long term, as of now, try to study Mandarin for 1 hour per day, maybe tackle 10 vocabulary per day and 3 sentence structure. The second way to tackle this, of course, is to give yourself a deadline. I remember when I was learning how to drive, of course, I didn't learn how to drive when I was 16. I never attended driving schools, and to me, learning how to drive wasn't a priority for the longest time until I moved to Texas. I realized you basically couldn't get around really fast, efficient way unless you learn how to drive. So I bought a car. I had a friend whose car just happened to broke down, so he became my chauffeur. So he can use my car, but when I needed a ride, he will drive my car to pick me up. So I was just procrastinating until I was talking to my academic advisor, and she's like, you've been trying to learn how to drive for the past like several months, and you still have not learned how to drive. So one thing you could do is to give yourself a deadline, because you're relying upon someone else to drive. You're not establishing like independence, but give yourself a deadline. Make it 2 months. Like, learn how to drive past the exam in 2 months. Once I give yourself a deadline, it just became way easier for me to push myself harder every day to practice with my roommates and friends, because once I have this deadline, I know that I have to face this. things just happen. If you tend to procrastinate because you don't have a short-term goal, or you have a delayed gratification, or sometimes your goals or rewards are super long-term, you don't have instant reward, first establish a plan, a concrete plan, and establish a short-term goal to achieve every single day, every single week, and every single month. And sometimes giving yourself a hard deadline, put yourself a little bit on the edge, give yourself a little bit stress, may be helpful as long as it's done in a very appropriate way. Make a concrete short-term goal, give yourself some instant reward. If you could pass the exam, treat yourself something nice, and give yourself a deadline is going to be helpful. The fourth reason why we procrastinate is that sometimes there is this perceived lack of control in achieving our goals. Sometimes we overemphasize the influence of external factors. We try to find an excuse from the external factors, like how there's so many things preventing us to take this action, and as a result, we don't want to take actions because there's so many external factors preventing us achieving the goals. Well, sometimes external factors actually matter in a lot of times in a lot of ways. But again, if you study a lot of successful people like millionaires, business owners, entrepreneurs, they usually take the locus of control. They usually take locus of control. They tend to look inward in terms of what they could do to tackle the external factors, to adapt to the change of external factors, to adapt to the environment, instead of dwelling on those external factors that prevent them from success. So if you are procrastinating because you feel like there's so many things preventing you to achieve your goals, hence you don't want to take actions because you feel like taking actions will actually not matter because there's so many external factors preventing you from the goals, I would suggest you to look inward and become a more internal oriented person. Internally oriented people tend to look at what they could do internally on their part to actually tackle the challenges and external factors and adapt to the ever-changing society. I remember when I was very, very young, actually I was like in first grade. I just started my elementary school. I didn't have good grades one time, and I was explaining to my grandparents like why I didn't have a good grades for that particular exam. There's this and that, like so many external factors. And so my grandma actually asked me a very interesting question. She asked me, yes, those external factors definitely played a role in your failure to that exam. Did those environmental factors or external factors happen to other students? I said, yeah, we were in the same classroom, we had the same teacher, we took the same exam in the same condition. So yes, but I was telling my grandma a lot of other kids didn't do well on that exam either because so and so and so and so. My grandma asked me another question. Was there at least one person that did well under that condition? I was like, yeah. Well, although the majority of the classmates did not do well in that particular exam, there were a couple of students that actually nailed it, they aced it, they got 100 out of 100. So my grandma said, okay, so if there are actually other people in your condition succeeded, there is no excuse for you not to do the same. And I was like, but 80% of the kids did not do well, and I am part of the majority. If the majority of kids didn't do well, I think it makes sense that they didn't do well either. But my grandma was like, if you constantly compare yourself to people that are not doing as good as you will never progress. You have to look forward, look upwards, to look at those achieving students who had the same difficulties and challenges, who studied under the same condition, who took the test in the same condition and did well. How did they adapt to the condition? How did they adapt to the external factors? How did they adapt to the environmental factors? How did they succeed even though the odds were against them? So that actually really inspired me. I forever remember that conversation. Again, I felt like I'm so privileged that I have grandparents who told me those principles early on in my life, so that in the future when things got hard, I think we as humans tend to find excuses. We tend to not to take control, to say that, okay, it's my fault that I didn't succeed. We always try to find different excuses, environmental factors, external factors. But if there is one person in your shoes could succeed, succeed, there is no other reason why I couldn't. So, and a lot of people who are successful, they take the locus of control and they learn how to make changes when external factors are preventing them from the success. So if you perceive that there is a lack of control in achieving your goals, hence you don't want to take actions, that is definitely something you want to work on, because instead of taking the actions you planned, you can actually adapt and take a different action and to make it work, even though there are other external factors that prevent you from success. Become internally oriented, take locus of control, and try to set your goals, try to adapt, make changes to your plans, and try your best. And even if it failed, you can say that you tried, or else it will always be wondering, what if I did this? Maybe I could have succeeded. The fifth reason for procrastination is negative emotions. Honestly, I think that happened to me, especially in the year of 2020. There was so much of negative emotions that I had throughout the year, starting from some family members got COVID, and then my mom got cancer, and me being worried about going back to work in the building, and then a lot of people in my office actually got sick, and the anxiety of being exposed, the anxiety of being sick and everything. I just had so many negative emotions. I did procrastinate a lot of things in my life just because I had those negative emotions. But eventually, I just had an epiphany that having those negative emotions did not really help. I just became in this like vicious cycle of feeling bad, feeling anxious, feeling depressed. And then I stopped doing things that helped me to feel good, to be productive, to get things done. And then I have more things that I haven't done, and I have more things to do. And then I started to feel more overwhelmed, and then more bad news, being anxious, and then not get things done. And then it's just eventually I felt so overwhelmed. Okay, so if you are procrastinating because you have this feeling of being overwhelmed, if you have anxiety and depression, if you feel like you have decision fatigue, the fear of failure, or sometimes I have low self-efficacy as well. I felt like I don't have confident in achieving certain things. First thing to do is to recognize those emotions are real. But just by procrastinating and not do anything does not necessarily help you to address your emotions. So the first thing to do is to understand why you're feeling emotional, why you're feeling bad, why do you feel anxious, why do you feel overwhelmed? Is it because you're putting a lot of things in your shoes? Is it because, the pandemic? Is it because like you are feeling failure, or if you have failed and you are scared? Is it because like you have low confidence? By acknowledging your emotions are real, maybe talk with your friends, get some professional help, it may actually really help. So I felt like I've been complaining a lot in the year of 2020 when things got hard. I complained with my friends, and I felt like sometimes we tend not to want to be like a person who complains all the time, because people will see you as a negative person, which I believe is absolutely true. But again, you do want to let it out, because you don't want to keep all of your emotions, all of the things to yourself and overwhelm your own feelings more, and that prevents you from taking actions to actually change the current environment or the current things that put yourself into this bad emotions, negative emotions. So first of all, talk to your friends, acknowledging your emotions are real. But second, also think about if you make your emotions to affect your actions, and is it going to be a good cycle or a bad cycle? So sometimes when I feel overwhelmed, I take a break, and that actually helped me, because then I will feel less overwhelmed. Versus sometimes when I feel anxious and I was like, okay, I'm not going to do anything because I'm just going to think about my anxiety. And then I have more and more anxiety. So think about the action you take. Is it going to help you address the emotions, or is it going to be making it worse? So take actions that are beneficial to address your negative emotions instead of like making you feel worse. The third thing is, if you have this fear of failure, if you have this low confidence, low self-efficacy, think of what could be the worst thing that could ever happen to you. Like if you take this action, yes, you failed. What's the worst thing of failing this? Actually, a lot of times, nothing would happen. It's just you didn't achieve what you want to achieve. There is no punishment if you don't achieve the things you don't achieve. So why not just try it? The next solution is to connect to your future self. So think about your emotions as your present self. Like think about the situations you're in, the things that are making you feel negative, and connect to your future self. What do you want to be the next day? What do you want to be the next week? What do you want to be the next year? Do you want to live in this present negative environment, or do you want to make a change? And what are the actions you could take to make that change? So a lot of times when we feel bad, when we're in a bad position, when we feel bad in our life, it's very beneficial to connect to your future self, to think about the person you want to be in the future. So instead of dwelling on the current situation, think about, so what changes can you make to feel differently, to become a different person? So make a connection to your future self. Think about what type of person you want to be tomorrow. What things do you want to do tomorrow, and take actions. So connecting to your future self is going to visualize a person or a life situation that you want to be instead of you currently are, and that can motivate you to actually push through, to be resilient, because then you're not dwelling on the current situation. You're actually aspiring, you're inspired to do something different, to make a difference, to become a different person in the future. So if the current situation is making you feel really, really bad, I definitely understand. I was in that position for the longest time, but sometimes I just visualize what type of future life I want to live, what type of a person I want to become in the future, and take actions and try to crawl out of my very sad, anxiety, overwhelmed situation, and try to take actions and aspire to become the person I want to be, to live the life that I want to live in the future. The last tip I want to say about procrastination is that sometimes it's okay to strategically procrastinate. I would invite you to make a list of things that you want to do, you need to do, and you have to do. And order them in a different order in terms of the priority. And it is okay to strategically prioritize certain things and procrastinate other things. For example, if I choose between taking care of my cat versus taking down this Christmas tree, I would prioritize taking care of my cat. And that means, when the night goes long, you feel tired, do I prioritize my sleep, or do I prioritize taking down this Christmas tree? Again, sleep is so important for my productivity for the next day. But this Christmas tree is just going to be just laying down here being happy, and I don't care what other people think of me anyways. So sometimes it's okay to strategically procrastinate as long as you're being productive and address everything on your priority list. So now I just invite you to write down the things you want to do, like cleaning the house, do that assignment, write that paper, taking down the Christmas tree, cook for your family and everything, and prioritize them based on the priority. Like, what is the most important thing to do? What is the most important thing to you? To a lot of people, it would be taking care of family, taking care of your cat. To a lot of other people is to graduate, to finish that paper, to finish that assignments. To some other people is to clean, to put down the Christmas tree. So no judgment in terms of how you prioritize things, but try to make a priority list. And it is okay sometimes to strategically procrastinate things that are not on your priority list so you can be productive in achieving your goal. It's important to achieve your goal with the actions on your priority list. So think about the one ultimate goal you want to achieve today, and what are the actions that help you to achieve that particular short-term goal, and prioritize certain actions. And we're gonna take down the Christmas tree eventually, but it's just not my priority today. My priority is to use today to film some YouTube videos, to edit some YouTube videos for you guys. So I am prioritizing you guys over this Christmas tree, and I just Don't you love this background? I love this background. It's very festive, it's very relaxing and cozy, and it just makes me happy, so why not? Alrighty, that's it for today's video. I hope this video is helpful to you to understand why we procrastinate and how to stop procrastination. So comment down below what are the things that you're prioritizing currently, and comment down below what are the things that you're procrastinating right now, and what are the reasons why you are procrastinating them, and how you would solve your procrastination issues and get it done by the end of this week, this month, or this year. So comment down below, let's help each other out, keep ourselves accountable, build a helpful, supportive community. Alrighty, that's it for today. Before you go, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up so that more people can benefit from these productivity videos, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!